If you're a finance manager, controller, or finance director in a startup and you're aiming for a CFO role, then I want to take you through what a day actually looks like. This is part of my series on how to become a CFO, and in this video, I'll walk through what CFOs actually spend their time on, being a CFO myself. And if you stay to the end, hopefully then you'll have a clearer picture about whether you're actually ready to step into that role or not. So stay until then. A lot of finance professionals do want to become a CFO. It's a question I get asked on a daily basis, but potentially not everybody actually understands what the role looks like day to day. So I know I made this mistake earlier in my career, and it's very easy to assume that CFOs review numbers, they sign off on reports, and they manage the finance function. But actually, that's a really small part of it. And in a startup or scale up, the CFO role is so much more commercial, fast moving, and people focused than what people actually expect. So I want to go through what CFOs actually spend their time doing. The first one is working with the founder. So a big part of the role is being a sounding board for the founder or the CEO. And that is not just finance updates. You can only talk about finance updates for so long. It's much more strategic than that. So examples could be pressure testing some of the decisions, talking through trade-offs, helping to prioritize what makes sense checking, looking at different scenarios. And I will say often these conversations are quite informal. It's not one-to-ones on a daily basis. There could just be quick calls, walking in between meetings, messages throughout the day. And this is where the real value happens. So I am currently in a CFO role. I go into the office 2 days a week. I probably will go in 3 days a week in a couple of months. And the CEO and I often hover at each other's desk, and it's just talking about things that are happening in the business. And on the days that I work from home, we are either in meetings together. We do actually have a one-to-one on one of the days that I'm not in the office, and we use Slack, and Slack is there'd be at least a Slack message between one of us at least every hour, I would say. So it is very much a close relationship that you have with the business, both with the founder and the rest of the C-suite team. So it's a very important part of the role. I have heard this before. I think I've even said on this channel before, but a CFO is very much the navigator in, say, a car rally team. You have the CEO driving the car, and the CFO is next to them with the navigation map, helping them drive the car forwards. Number two is making decisions and not just reporting. So CFOs are constantly involved around decisions that right across the business. So whether that's hiring plans, pricing changes, obviously cost reductions, but also investments in growth. I was even in a conversation yesterday talking about how we can get the sales team to sell more. And there was lots of different brainstorming going around and different scenarios. And I was part of that conversation. So you can see how it's not very much strictly finance, finance, finance. So the expectation is not to present the options and step back and then basically leave the business to make the decisions, but rather the CFO is a lens to help give their recommendations, perhaps explain the impact, particularly with your risk hat on, and really helping the business move forward. So this is very much a shift from reporting to decision making. Number three is managing cash and runways. In startups, cash is always front of mind just because it's such a limited resource. And as I mentioned, I'm in a CFO role. It's a new role, so I've only been in this role for 2 weeks, and I'm already reviewing the cash position. I already have a visibility on the short-term forecasts. I am always looking at the runway already, and I have already done a couple of scenarios, cash scenarios. So the questions I'm thinking about is how long do we have with our current cash in the bank? What needs to change? And when do we need to raise? So this is not a monthly task, and it's just reviewed at month end. It is ongoing. Number four is leading the finance team. So even in smaller businesses, there's often a small finance function. It could be a bookkeeper, financial controller, a head of finance, outsourced support. In my current role, I have outsourced bookkeepers, which includes, I'd say, a finance manager, a couple of juniors and payroll, and then I have a head of finance in-house. However, there are other teams that can also fall under a CFO, and this can drastically change based on the industry you're in, the stage of business, how many other C-suite peoples you have. So teams that can be included under the CFO's remit could include FinOps, risk, fraud, which is very common in my sector, being fintech, office and admin, HR, legal is sometimes can even fall under the CFO, business intelligence and data, and on occasions, elements of operations. So CFOs are responsible not to manage the task list of these teams, but instead setting the expectations, reviewing the output at a high level, improving processes and building capabilities. So the goal really is to make sure that these departments are optimized and working well. Number 5 is improving processes and systems. So there is always something that needs fixing or improving, whether that's within finance, like reporting systems, controls, data quality, or something else with one of your other teams around the business. And the CFO decides regularly on what matters now and what can wait, and importantly, where to invest time and budget. Number 6 is stakeholder management. So there are a lot of them, and this is why CFOs do spend a lot of time in meetings or chatting to other people. So stakeholders, sometimes they're the obvious ones like investors, board members, banks, auditors, tax advisors, but you can also things like key suppliers as well, and even key customers can also be one of the stakeholders that CFOs can be a point of contact, and you are expected to communicate quite clearly with these stakeholders. You really want to build trust and manage expectations, and this becomes more important as the business grows and as you're preparing to fundraise. Number 7 is thinking ahead. So a lot of the role is forward looking, which is very different to a traditional finance role that spends a lot of time looking at the history. And CFOs are constantly thinking about where the business is currently going, fundraising plans, growth scenarios, and of course, risks. If we look at a day in a life as a CFO, I will say no 2 days are the same, largely because you're not heavily involved in month end, in the general reporting, in those kind of compliance things that are done all the time. If you think about a financial controller, for example, and a finance manager, their days or months particularly can be very similar, and there's a big part of their role is replicated, but a CFO not so. So what could it look like? So I just wanted to go through an example of the things that I do in my CFO role. So in the morning, one of the things I often do is I review the key numbers, largely the KPIs. So I go to the KPIs dashboard and I have a look at how we're tracking day to day, week on week, and also where we are month to date. So I do that every single day. I'll also often have a quick look at the cash position just to make sure that there's no surprises, basically, and just making sure that we're tracking as we should. Often there's messages around, email, Slack, or whatever, or messaging with the founder or with the team on the week's or days' priorities. Late morning, midday, I'll probably have meetings with sales and marketing if we're talking about performance or we're tracking against budget, how we're going, probably team check-ins with the finance functions, working through commercial decisions or a scenario. I really like to work with teams in the morning. I find that in the afternoon, people have things that they need to finish. There's deadlines. And so working with the teams in the morning, unless we're doing a brainstorm session, I prefer to do those in the afternoon or early afternoon when people's brains are still firing. In the afternoon, there may be calls with investors or banks or advisors. There may be a bit of review, so whether that's reporting or forecasting, going through the rolling forecast. Maybe there's some planning, so I might be planning next steps on hiring or fundraising or strategy. I usually would review the projects that we have in place, see how they're tracking, both my projects and the team's projects, if there's any blockers we need to unblock. Or I'd have some meetings with my business partners and we would sit down and go through their area. And then throughout the day, there will be constant questions from the business, whether that's face to face or online. There will probably be a multiple of quick decisions that I need to make, particularly in a startup or scale up. And sometimes I might also need to adjust my priorities or the team's priorities. So that's what the role actually looks like day to day. This is part of a series on how to become a CFO in a startup. So you may find some of the other videos quite useful, such as the 5 skills every future CFO must learn, why some finance directors never become a CFO, and some career mistakes. I'll leave links to those below as well. And then if you want to become a confident and skilled finance leader in the next 12 months, then follow these 3 steps. The first one is to subscribe to this channel so you get weekly updates like this on tips that you can take into your current role. You might want to take a look at my FLF book that gives you an overview of the FLF framework that we use. I use this both for my personal work, but also with all of the students I work with. And number 3, that's working with me in the Financial Leadership Fundamentals course. And that's when we go through the training and I have monthly Q&A sessions with my students. Anyway, thanks so much for watching and I look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers.